In the spring of 1989, the Pacific Ocean off Baja, California, lay serene under a cloudless sky, its surface a polished mirror reflecting the dawn's golden light. I stood on the weathered deck of the Oceanic Explorer, a 60-meter research vessel that had been my refuge and crucible for over a decade. At 34, I was Mike Anderson, a deep-sea diver and submersible pilot, my hands scarred from years of wrestling the ocean's secrets, scientific surveys, salvage operations, and classified military recoveries. The mission before me was deceptively simple: retrieve a submarine antenna lost at 350 meters during a botched military communications test 3 days prior. It was a routine dive, one I'd executed countless times. Yet as I gazed at the horizon, where sea met sky in an unbroken line, a faint unease stirred, a primal whisper of the abyss's indifference. The deck hummed with pre-dive activity, the air sharp with salt, diesel, and the tang of anticipation. My team, Andrew Carter and Thomas Reed, stood at a bolted-down table, mission plans pinned against the Pacific breeze. Andrew, 30, wiry and sharp-eyed, was our observer, his meticulous nature honed by years of cataloging seafloor anomalies. His pre-dive anxiety was a known quantity, a nervous energy that dissolved once we submerged, replaced by laser focus. Thomas, 36, broad-shouldered and deliberate, was our technical maestro, his calm precision a bulwark against the deep's unpredictability. His hands, calloused from tweaking submersible systems, moved with the confidence of a surgeon. 6 hours total, I said, tracing the descent path on the map, my finger lingering on the coordinates. 24°42'N, 112°15'W. 1 hour down, 2 for retrieval, 1 up, plus contingency. We'll be back for lunch. Thomas nodded, his voice a low rumble. Pressure at 350 meters is 35 atmospheres. The Mako can handle triple that, but we'll monitor viewport seals closely. Andrew, gripping the table's edge, added, I'll set up cameras for full documentation. Forward, lateral, infrared. His voice carried a tremor, the familiar edge of pre-dive nerves, but his eyes flicked to the ocean, betraying a deeper disquiet. I left them to their preparations and began my ritual inspection of the Mako, our 10-meter, teardrop-shaped submersible. Its hull, painted a faded yellow, gleamed under the morning sun, a beacon of human ingenuity against the vast unknown. I ran my hands over every bolt, weld, and seal, my fingers tracing the cold metal as if reading a map of survival. 10 years earlier, off Alaska, a faulty oxygen valve had failed at 400 meters, trapping me in a flooding submersible. My partner, Elena, hadn't made it, her screams haunting my dreams. Since then, I developed what my ex-wife Sarah called an obsessive pre-dive ritual. I called it atonement. Each check was a prayer against the deep's betrayal. Oxygen valve secure, ballast tanks operational, thrusters aligned, external lights at full intensity. The Mako was my lifeline, a fragile shell against 35 atmospheres of crushing force. Captain Hector Martinez, the Oceanic Explorer's grizzled commander, appeared beside me, his weathered face creased with what might have been amusement or respect. At 55, Martinez was old-school Navy, his authority forged in decades of commanding vessels through storms and secrets. "Checking for gremlins again, Anderson?" he asked, his voice a gravelly drawl. I didn't look up, my fingers probing a hull seam. "Always." He handed me a printed weather report, the paper crisp despite the humid air. Surface temperature 22 degrees Celsius, dropping to 6 degrees Celsius at depth. Barometric pressure steady at 1,013 millibars. Wind 5 knots, southwest. Negligible current at 350 meters. No shipping traffic within 20 nautical miles. I scanned the numbers, committing them to memory, and tucked the report into my breast pocket. "Ideal conditions," Martinez added, his dark eyes scanning the horizon. "You won't get better if you wait a month." I nodded, returning to my inspection. The Mako was ready. Seals tight, bolts secure, gear stowed, tools for antenna retrieval, backup air systems, emergency rations, all meticulously packed by Thomas the previous night. Andrew stood alone by the starboard rail, his knuckles white as he gripped the metal, staring at the ocean's endless expanse. His sandy hair fluttered in the breeze, and his posture, shoulders hunched, jaw tight, suggested more than his usual nerves. "You good?" I asked, joining him, the deck creaking under my boots. He startled, his green eyes flicking to mine before returning to the water. "Yeah, just the usual." I knew his pre-dive anxiety, a ritual as familiar as my own, but the intensity in his gaze hinted at something deeper, a premonition he couldn't articulate. "Anything specific bothering you?" I pressed, softening my tone. He shook his head, a forced smile flickering. "Just a bad feeling. Probably nothing." In diving, bad feelings were currency, a healthy fear that sharpened instincts. The ocean demanded respect, and those who ignored its warnings rarely surfaced. I clapped his shoulder, my hand lingering. "Good conditions, simple mission. We'll be back before you know it." He nodded, but his grip on the rail didn't loosen. We donned specialized dive suits, thin, thermal layers designed for emergencies if the Mako subsystems failed. The fabric clung to my skin, a second layer of protection against the cold that awaited. The crane operator maneuvered the Mako, its yellow hull glinting as steel cables hooked to its lifting points. The sub swung over the ocean, suspended above waves that lapped hungrily at the oceanic explorer's hull. We climbed down a short ladder into the Mako's interior, a cramped but efficient space. 3 acceleration couches faced a control console and a reinforced viewport, with equipment storage and a compact bathroom behind. Every inch served a purpose, a testament to engineering under pressure. I took the pilot seat, central and forward, my hands settling on the controls with practiced ease. Thomas sat to my right at the technical station, his screens glowing with system diagnostics. Andrew, to my left, adjusted his observation monitors, cameras already whirring. "Comms check," Thomas said, his headset framing his square jaw. "Reading you," I confirmed. "Clear," Andrew added, his voice steadier now, the sub's confines grounding him. We ran through pre-dive checklists, a liturgy of survival honed by years of repetition. Propulsion systems green, life support nominal, sonar active, cameras recording. "Oceanic Explorer, Mako ready for descent," I reported through the comms. Martinez's voice crackled back, clear and authoritative. "Acknowledged. Clear for drop in 30 seconds. Good hunting." The crane lowered us, the Mako rocking gently as it kissed the water's surface. Cables detached with a series of metallic clanks, echoing like gunshots in the quiet morning. "Sealing outer hatches," Thomas announced, his fingers dancing over controls. The mechanisms engaged with a satisfying thunk, sealing us in our metal cocoon. I activated the ballast controls, water rushing into the external tanks with a low roar. The Mako sank, sunlight filtering through the viewport, casting fleeting patterns across the console before fading as blue deepened to indigo. At 50 meters, the ocean darkened, our external floodlights carving a bubble of visibility in the void. The sonar pinged steadily, a metronome measuring depth and obstacles. "Passing 100 meters, Thomas reported, his voice calm. "Descent rate steady, all systems nominal." Andrew now focused monitored camera feeds. Visibility 15 meters with current lighting. No marine life of significant size. The darkness outside thickened, a black so absolute it felt solid, our lights a fragile defiance against it. At 200 meters, the hull creaked faintly, adjusting to the increasing pressure. I felt the familiar calm of the deep settle over me, a clarity born of simplicity. Pressure, oxygen, navigation, the basics of survival stripped of surface complexities. "Passing 300 meters, Thomas updated. "Approaching target depth." I adjusted our descent angle, aligning with the antenna's coordinates. At 350 meters, the hull groaned louder, 35 atmospheres pressing against every centimeter. "Target depth reached," I announced, leveling out. 352 meters, Thomas confirmed. "Hull integrity at optimal levels. Marine snow, organic detritus drifting from the surface, floated in our beams, a ghostly cascade feeding the deep's ecosystem. Sonar indicated the antenna 40 meters ahead, bearing 020. I adjusted our heading, expecting its 3-meter frame to emerge from the gloom. Andrew, visual confirmation? He leaned forward, scanning the viewport and camera feeds, his brow furrowed. Nothing yet. Visibility 12 meters. Seafloor uniform silt. No debris. The absence was jarring. The antenna's weighted base, designed to resist currents, should have made it a beacon against the flat terrain. Thomas, verify coordinates, I said, my voice tighter than intended. He cross-checked the navigation system, his fingers deliberate. Confirmed. We're within 5 meters of the reported position. Sonar functioning. No errors detected. We exchanged glances, the cabin's blue glow casting shadows that deepened our unease. Could currents have moved it? Andrew suggested, his voice betraying a flicker of doubt. Unlikely, I replied, my mind racing through possibilities. The base is designed to prevent drift, even in strong currents. I maneuvered the Mako in a tight circle around the coordinates, Thomas boosting the external lights to maximum intensity, pushing visibility to 15 meters. After a full circuit yielded nothing, I initiated an expanding square search, 5-meter increments, a methodical grid to cover the seafloor. 20 minutes later, Thomas broke the silence. Still no metal signature matching the antenna's profile. This doesn't make sense. Andrew's tension resurfaced, his fingers tapping his console. Could the coordinates be wrong? I shook my head. Possible, but unlikely. Military GPS is precise, and the vessel that lost it was equipped with top-tier navigation. After 40 minutes, reaching a 100-meter radius, I contacted the surface, the ultra-low frequency comms cutting through the water's resistance. Oceanic Explorer, Mako. No antenna at target coordinates. Expanded search to 100 meters. No results. Request guidance. A minute later, Martinez's voice returned, distorted by depth. Mako Oceanic Explorer. Understood. Command suggests expanding search radius to 500 meters. Antenna is priority recovery. Take additional time if needed. Over. I acknowledged, suppressing a flicker of frustration. Expanding search to 500 meters. Will update with findings. Mako out. Thomas glanced at me, his expression unreadable. Looks like we're down here longer than planned. I nodded, resetting the search pattern, spiraling outward in a grid. The cabin settled into the rhythm of deep-sea work. The hum of life support, the click of equipment, the blue glow reflecting off our faces. The ocean's silence pressed against the hull, a reminder of our isolation. After 40 minutes of fruitless searching, Thomas sat up, his voice cutting through the monotony. Sonar contact, bearing 115, range 200 meters. I adjusted our heading, a mix of relief and curiosity stirring. Is it the antenna? Andrew asked, redirecting cameras to the new direction. Thomas frowned, studying his display. No, much larger. Initial readings estimate 40 meters in length. Andrew's disbelief mirrored mine. That's impossible. The antenna's 3 meters tall. I considered the possibilities. A rock formation, an uncharted wreck, or something else entirely. Could be a sunken vessel, I said, though Thomas's expression, taut, uncertain, suggested otherwise. Maybe the antenna landed nearby, skewing the coordinates. I decided to investigate, cautious but compelled. Keep monitoring that contact, I instructed, easing the Mako toward the anomaly. At 150 meters, Thomas's confusion deepened. The object's expanding, now reading 45 meters. The shape is shifting slightly. My unease grew, a cold knot in my chest. A school of fish? Andrew offered, grasping for rationality. Not at this depth, I countered. The sonar returns too solid for organic material. At 100 meters, I switched the external lights to long-range configuration, their beams straining against the darkness. Visual distance in 50 meters, I said, slowing our approach. Andrew, All cameras recording, he confirmed, his posture rigid with tension. All cameras active. At 30 meters, Thomas's voice sharpened. Sonar signature shifting. It's moving but not changing position. Andrew's conviction faltered. That's impossible. At 20 meters, Thomas's tone dropped to a whisper, as if afraid of being overheard. We should have visual by now. Density readings are fluctuating. I ordered a full stop, the Mako suspended in the black water, our lights probing a void that refused to yield. Thomas ran a full diagnostic on the sonar, his fingers moving with urgency. Readings are clear and strong. No system errors. Andrew switched to infrared, his monitors showing only empty water, no heat signatures. The mismatch between our instruments and senses tightened the cabin's air, a dissonance that felt like the ocean itself was lying. We'll move closer, I decided, my voice steady despite the growing dread. Slowly, be ready for immediate withdrawal. I inched the Mako forward, thrusters at minimal power, sonar insisting a 50-meter object loomed directly ahead. At 5 meters, the contradiction peaked. Our lights revealed nothing but marine snow, yet sonar screamed of a massive presence. I made a bold call, driven by a need to resolve the paradox. We're going to pass through the area. If it's there, we'll feel it through the hull. I eased the Mako forward, every sense attuned for impact. We glided through the coordinates, feeling nothing. No resistance, no vibration. Thomas stared at his display, his voice hollow. It's behind us now. We passed through it. I turned the Mako in a tight arc, lights sweeping the void. Still nothing. Sonar anomaly? Andrew asked, his earlier anxiety now a focused confusion. Not like this, Thomas replied, shaking his head. I've never seen readings this clear for a natural phenomenon. Instinct, honed by years in the deep, screamed caution, a primal alarm louder than any instrument. Continue investigating, I said, but maintain safe distance. Be ready for ascent. The sonar tracked the object, now 60 meters, its dimensions fluctuating as if alive. Thomas's voice tightened. It's moving, accelerating toward us. I reacted instantly, banking the Mako hard to starboard, thrusters straining as the sub leaned. Thomas, lights, maximum power. His hand slammed the controls, floodlights blazing white. For a heartbeat, only water gleamed, a sterile void. Then, from the darkness, a pale, translucent cylinder surged into view, its 60-meter bulk dwarfing the Mako. Its skin, sickly white, seemed to absorb and refract our lights, rippling with an unnatural fluidity that defied biology. It moved with predatory grace, a silent leviathan born of nightmares. What is that thing? Andrew whispered, his cameras clicking furiously, capturing the horror. The cylinder turned, revealing a circular mouth. A gaping maw, 10 meters wide, lined with concentric rings of white, hook-like structures that twitched and flexed, alien and obscene. They weren't teeth but something other, a mechanism of hunger beyond evolution's design. What the hell? Thomas yelled, his face drained of color, eyes locked on the viewport. My training kicked in, adrenaline sharpening my focus. I slammed the throttle into full reverse, the Mako shuddering as its engines fought the water's resistance. Surface contact now, I ordered. Andrew fumbled the comms, his hands trembling. Oceanic Explorer, Mako. Emergency situation. Unknown biological entity of massive proportions. Current coordinates. His transmission cut off as the creature lunged, its speed impossible for its size, churning the water into violent currents that slammed the Mako sideways. Proximity alarms screamed, the cabin a cacophony of warnings as the creature's mouth filled the viewport, wide enough to engulf us. I yanked the controls upward, executing an evasive climb, but we were too slow. A devastating impact struck the port side, spinning the Mako like a toy. Systems blared, lights flickering before emergency backups kicked in, bathing the cabin in red. I glanced left, heart stopping. A spiderweb of cracks fractured Andrew's viewport, the reinforced glass buckling under the creature's force. "Andrew," I shouted. His eyes met mine, wide with terror, understanding the inevitable. "Seal it," Thomas screamed, lunging for the emergency bulkhead controls. I scrambled toward Andrew, my hands grasping air as the glass shattered inward with a deafening crack. Water blasted into the cabin, a fire hose of pressure that pinned Andrew against his console before sucking him toward the breach. His fingers clawed at the metal, a desperate plea. Then he was gone, pulled through the jagged hole into the creature's waiting maw. My training overrode shock. I slammed the emergency bulkhead release, the metal barrier sliding into place with a thud, halting the flood. Water sloshed at our feet, the cabin tilting from the imbalance. The reality crashed in. I'd sealed Andrew outside to save Thomas and myself. The Mako would have flooded in seconds otherwise, but the weight of that choice, Andrew's terrified face, his hands reaching, burned into my mind. The sub shook again, the creature still out there, its presence a pressure against the hull. "Emergency ascent protocol," I ordered, my voice sounding foreign, detached. Thomas, pale and trembling, nodded, his hands moving with practiced precision despite the horror. "Purging all ballast tanks, angling nose to 30 degrees, ascent engines at maximum power." The Mako responded, tilting upward, the depth gauge ticking down. 348 meters, 345, 342. The ascent was agonizingly slow, warning lights flashing across my console. Engines overheating, hull stress critical. "It's circling back," Thomas said, his sonar display showing the creature arcing upward from below. Its 60-meter form a relentless shadow. At our current rate, it would intercept us before we reached 200 meters, where pressure might deter it. Water seeped through backup seals, pooling to our shins, the cabin reeking of brine and sparking electronics. I scanned the control panel, my eyes landing on the weapons subsystem, a single emergency harpoon, designed for sharks, not this monstrosity. "Defense system operational?" I asked. Thomas switched to the weapons interface. "Harpoon armed and ready. But Mike, it's not built for something this size. We don't need to kill it," I said, Andrew's final moments flashing through my mind. "Just slow it down." At 298 meters, Thomas shouted, "It's coming straight up. Fast." The sonar showed the creature abandoning its spiral, accelerating directly beneath us. "Wait for a clear shot," I instructed, fighting to keep my voice calm. At 30 meters, the creature's thrumming vibrated through the hull, a bone-deep pressure that felt like the ocean itself was alive. At 10 meters, Thomas slammed the firing control. The Mako shuddered as the harpoon launched, its trajectory a straight line on the weapon's display. For 3 seconds, silence gripped the cabin. Then the sonar erupted in chaotic readings, the creature thrashing violently. A dark cloud spread below, blood or some alien ichor. "Direct hit, mouth area," Thomas reported, his eyes wide. The creature sank, dropping dozens of meters, its movements erratic. We climbed 267 meters, 264, 261, gaining precious distance. The cabin's water level rose, electrical sparks hissing as systems shorted. After 4 minutes, Thomas's console pinged. "It's coming back," he said, resignation heavy in his voice. Slower, favoring one side. The harpoon had wounded it, but not enough. The depth gauge crawled, 258, 255. I weighed our dwindling options. "Prepare emergency ballast release," I said. Thomas's head snapped up. "Full release? Mike, that could fracture the hull from rapid decompression." "It's gaining again," I countered, the sonar showing the creature closing to 100 meters. "We need speed." He hesitated, then nodded, securing loose equipment as I tightened my restraints. "On my mark," I said, watching the creature's relentless ascent. 3, 2, 1, release. Explosive bolts fired, a deafening cascade as the ballast tank covers blew off. Compressed air blasted the water out, the Mako lurching upward with stomach-dropping force. We slammed against our restraints, alarms blaring as the sub rolled alarmingly, struggling to stabilize. The depth gauge blurred. 235, 220, 205. At 150 meters, a new alarm flashed. Structural integrity critical. Hull deformation on port quarter, Thomas shouted over the noise. Microfractures forming from pressure differential. The rapid ascent reversed the hull stress. Internal pressure now exceeding external, threatening to tear us apart. I reached for the ascent override, then stopped. Slowing would let the creature catch us. I bypassed safety protocols, manually disabling each warning, a feature for emergencies like this. "What are you doing?" Thomas asked, watching me override the system. "Choosing between bad options," I said. "Hull fracture or that thing. I'm betting on survival." At 118 meters, a glancing impact rocked us, the creature's bulk brushing our underside. Hull integrity dropped another 7%, water now mid-thigh, electrical systems sparking violently. The sonar showed the creature pacing us, its mouth opening and closing, a rhythmic hunger. At 65 meters, rivets snapped, the Mako trembling as engines redlined. Deep blue outside lightened, sunlight filtering through. At 0 meters, we breached, the viewport exploding with blinding light. The Mako crashed through waves, rolling sickeningly, water sloshing knee-deep. Through the remaining viewport, I spotted the Oceanic Explorer 100 meters away, its white hull gleaming, crew scrambling on deck. Martinez's voice crackled through the comms, urgent but controlled. "Mako Oceanic Explorer, we have visual. Stand by for immediate recovery." I grabbed the microphone, my voice raw. "Severe damage. Flooding in progress. Andrew is dead. Unknown hostile entity directly beneath us." Sonar showed the creature circling 20 meters below, its pattern tightening. The recovery crane swung out, steel cables descending, but waves rocked the Mako, making connection impossible. "I need to guide it," I said, unstrapping despite Thomas's protest. "Out there? With that thing?" I nodded, climbing the hatch ladder. The metal groaned as I pushed it open, wind and spray hitting my face. The ocean sounds, waves, seabirds, the Oceanic Explorer's engines, washed over me after hours of mechanical noise. I crawled along the Mako's slippery hull, gripping maintenance handholds, waves threatening to sweep me off. The recovery hook swung 20 feet away, glinting in the sun. Martinez's voice boomed from a loudspeaker. "Mako, confirm visual on hook." Thomas must have responded as the cable lowered closer. Timing the waves, I lunged for the hook, missing twice as the Mako pitched. On my fourth attempt, I grabbed it, pulling it to the lifting bracket. The safety latch clicked, relief surging. "Connection secured," I shouted. The cable tensed, the Mako lifting, water streaming from its hull. Then a violent jerk dropped us, a scraping sound below. "It's got us," Thomas screamed. Peering over the side, I saw the creature's translucent bulk clamped to the hull, its hook-lined mouth gouging metal, tilting us against the crane's pull. Thomas slid toward the edge, catching a sensor box, his legs dangling over the water. I crawled to the hatch, reaching the lighting controls. With a final push, I blasted the remaining floodlights, their white beams piercing the creature's form. It recoiled, releasing us, its light-sensitive organs overwhelmed. The Mako surged upward, clear of the waves. I helped Thomas back inside as the Mako landed on the Oceanic Explorer's deck with a bone-rattling crash. Crew swarmed, securing the sub with chains. I emerged, muscles screaming, collapsing onto the deck beside Thomas. Martinez pushed through, his face etched with urgency. "What happened?" I struggled to form words. "Andrew's lost a raw wound. Something attacked us. Andrew's gone." Pulled through the viewport. Martinez's jaw tightened, assessing the Mako's shattered section. "All hands, prepare for immediate departure," he shouted. The deck erupted, crew securing the sub as engines roared, the ship turning from the dive site. 8 minutes later, a massive impact shook the Oceanic Explorer, tilting it violently. Equipment slid, crew stumbled. At the starboard rail, I saw the creature's pale bulk slam the hull, breaching lower compartments. Alarms blared, water flooding below. A second hit sent 3 crew overboard, their screams silenced by the waves. Thomas and I staggered to the bridge, the deck tilting. Martinez met us, fear in his eyes. "Get up here." The bridge was chaos. Officers shouting damage reports, the navigator wrestling unresponsive controls. A third impact lifted the ship, the port side dipping, waves flooding the deck. Through the windows, the creature surfaced, its 60-meter form dwarfing us, crashing onto the ship's center. I fell, head striking metal, vision fading as the creature's maw loomed. I woke 12 hours later in a makeshift medical bay, pain throbbing through my skull, 3 ribs broken, shoulder dislocated, and 4 dripped into my arm, the deck groaning unnaturally beneath me. Thomas, bandaged and bruised, sat nearby. "You've been out 12 hours, he said, voice flat. Ships barely floating, creatures gone per sonar. Martinez entered, his uniform torn, a bloodied bandage on his forearm. 8 confirmed dead, 5 missing, including Andrew, 14 total. Engine rooms flooded, generators failing. Mexican Coast Guard ETA 5 hours. I forced myself up, dizziness be damned, and limped to the Mako, Thomas steadying me. The sub was a wreck, viewport gone, hull gouged. I retrieved the camera module, its green light signaling intact data. In Martinez's office, the last intact space, we played the footage. The creature emerged from darkness. Translucent, 60 meters, with light-sensitive organs and biomechanical gills. Its hook-lined maw defied biology, a primordial predator from the trenches. It targeted the antenna, then us, I said. Not instinct, purpose. Thomas nodded. It's from an ecosystem we've never touched, evolved in isolation. As the Coast Guard's lights appeared, I vowed to return, to face the abyss's ruler. The ocean, once my sanctuary, was now a veil over a predatory unknown.